UNTV News and Rescue.
Tonight on Y News, the Department of Foreign Affairs is urged to file a diplomatic protest against the United States and China for intruding into the Philippine territory. The Solicitor General calls Senator Laila de Lima as a public enemy number one.
President Rodrigo Duterte names more local chief executives included in the narco list. A lawmaker criticizes the administration's proposal for a higher SSS contribution following the implementation of the pension hike.
Drivers may now claim their license cards at the office of the Land Transportation Office. And government hospitals expect a reduction in firecracker-related injuries this year.
Y News begins now.
UNTV News and Rescue Command Center. This is Y News with Angelo Castro III, Gerry Alcantara, and Darlene Basingan.
Good evening. Leftist group Bayan Muna has called on the Department of Foreign Affairs to act on the reported seizure of China of a U.S. naval probe or unmanned underwater vehicle inside the Philippine territory, 50 nautical miles from Subic Bay. The group explains the incident showed that the two countries are disrespectful of the Philippine sovereignty in trespassing into the country's exclusive economic zone.
Our Department of Foreign Affairs should lodge a note verbal to both parties, the US and China. Dahil ito ay pag-undermine sa ating national sovereignty.
Senator Gringo Honasan is urging the government to clarify its intended national policies, especially when it comes to international relations. Joyce Balancho will tell us why.
The Senate Committee on National Defense and Security, headed by Senator Gringo Honasan, will study carefully the recent pronouncements of President Rodrigo Duterte, calling to abrogate the Visiting Forces Agreement or the VFA. Senator Honasan says he will check if the President indeed handed out specific instructions regarding the matter.
Tatanungin ko ngayon si Secretary Lorenzana, next hearing namin, may instructions na ba na paalisin na yung mga Amerikano? Kung wala, that's white noise. Gusto kong malaman kung yung sinabi niya na i-translate sa utos sa ibaba. Yun lang ang importante sa akin.
The senator urges the Legislative and Executive Development Advisory Council or LEDAC to iron out the national agenda, specifically matters on foreign policy.
Ang suggestion ko is idaos na kagad yung LEDAC para mag-usap-usap yung executive at yung legislative at ma-hammer out na yung national agenda at yung national priorities.
He says it is the president who gives policy direction, but before doing so, he should be guided with proper information.
The president is the chief prosecutor of our foreign, economic, and security policy. As long as it does not violate the Constitution and it serves our highest national interest, he exercises certain prerogatives, judgment calls, and makes decisions based on complete, timely, and accurate information.
Joyce Balancho, UNTV News and Rescue, Senate of the Philippines.
The Solicitor General has tagged Senator Laila de Lima as the country's foremost enemy, saying they are helping the complainants in pursuing cases against the former Justice Secretary. Rodrigo Mendoza will tell us why.
A top government lawyer says he can't accept Senator Laila de Lima's tirades against President Duterte's war on drugs. Solicitor General Jose Calida calls on the people to unite against de Lima, whom he tagged as the country's top enemy.
ang drugs is our enemy, di ba? And who is espousing itong proliferation of drugs? Di ba si former Secretary of Justice De Lima? And therefore, she's number one, public enemy number one.
Calidas says they will utilize the resources of his office against De Lima. The OSG usually represents the government in litigations, but this time, Calidas says they can help the complainants pursue the cases against De Lima since public welfare is already at stake.
As the People's Tribune, the Office of the Solicitor General offers its legal services to the complainants who sued Senator De Lima in the Department of Justice, Ombudsman, and other venues for her criminal participation and complicity in the proliferation of illegal drugs in the National Penitentiary.
He, however, clarifies that they are not persecuting the senator but only upholding the rule of law. This is the first time that the OSG will be directly involved in the prosecution of a criminal case.
She's a very powerful person. Yung ating mga complainants, they're private citizens. In order to strengthen their resolve, I will lend the prestige and gravitas of my office to defend them and to help them in their cases against Senator De Lima.
Civil society groups led by Volunteers Against Crime and Corruption form a coalition against illegal drugs to guard the cases against De Lima. In a statement, De Lima says she will not dignify yet another act of lunacy. Rodrigo Mendoza, UNTV News and Rescue, Manila.
The bank records of Senator Laila De Lima and other persons implicated in the new Bilibid prison drug trade are now submitted to the National Bureau of Investigation. Justice Secretary Vitaliano Aguirre says the Anti-Money Laundering Counselor AMLAC has submitted the documents on Friday. Investigation is now underway as to whether or not the bank accounts presented have connections to the Bilibid drug trade. They will also ask for the analysis of AMLAC on the flow of transactions involving said bank accounts. Many Filipinos still support the anti-drug campaign of the Duterte administration despite fears of extrajudicial killings based on the most recent survey of the social weather stations. Aga Akbay will tell us why.
78% of Filipinos, or equivalent to nearly 8 in every 10 Filipinos, fear being a victim of alleged extrajudicial killings in the country due to the anti-drug war based on the latest SWS survey conducted from December 3 to 6. Extrajudicial killing is the killing of a person without the endorsement of a judicial proceeding to cover the instigator's involvement in illegal activities. It is carried out not just by government entities but also by unknown individuals. The study was conducted with face-to-face interviews of 1,500 respondents in the country. 71% also says it is important to arrest the drug suspect alive. 39% believe the issue on extrajudicial killings in the country is very serious. Based on the opinions of the majority of respondents, they are not sure if policemen are telling the truth when they claim that the suspects they killed in operations absolutely resisted arrest. Meanwhile, there are still many Filipinos who are also satisfied with the anti-illegal drugs operation of the Duterte administration and agreed that the problem of illegal drugs in their area declined when President Rodrigo Duterte assumed office. Meanwhile, PNP Chief Ronald De La Rosa assures the public that no person will be killed if he or she is innocent of any violation.
So kung they fear for their lives, dahil nga na posible na magiging victim sa AGK, well, that's how they feel. Pasensya na kayo. Basta kami, on our part, sa Philippine National Police, sisiguruhin namin na hindi dapat mangyari ang hindi dapat mangyari.
The Presidential Communications Office, on the other hand, assures the public that the government's anti-drug operation are not picking on poor, innocent, and hapless individuals. Aga Akbay, UNTV News and Rescue, Malacanang.
PNP Chief Ronald Bato de la Rosa apologizes for the killings amid the government's anti-drug war. Aiko Miguel will tell us why.
Pagdasal kami na sana Lord patawad kahit na masasamang tao yung namatay, there are still people.
Around 6,000 people in the past 6 months have been killed since the government's war against illegal drugs started. Police Chief Director General Ronald De La Rosa said these incidents of killing drug personalities are unintentional. In fact, from the said figure, only 2,000 were killed by legitimate police operations. But nevertheless, he is asking for forgiveness.
Hindi po namin inaamin na sa amin yung mga EJK na yan na sinasabi ninyo. Maraming sumakay sa ating war on drugs. Hindi po namin inaamin. But still, they become victims because of our war on drugs. Sorry po, Lord, patawarin niyo kami. Pero yun lang ang masasabi ko, ginagawa namin ito. Hindi para sa amin, for whatever purpose. Hindi pang personal. Hindi for anything else. Kundi para ito sa kinabukasan nating bayan.
It can be noted that the latest survey finds 85% of Filipinos feel safe because of the government's anti-drugs campaign. He adds that they could not appease the other 15% of Filipinos not in favor of their efforts against illegal drugs. Still, they will do their best to completely eradicate the problem of illegal drugs in the country. Thus, he asked for public understanding.
Sila'y nag-ingay. I don't know for what reasons, but I know deep inside their heart, masaya pa rin sila dahil may naidulot na kabutihan at katahimikan sa ating kapaligiran itong ating war on drugs. I challenge them. They are hypocrite. Hipokrito sila. Kung sabihin nila na hindi sila nakikinabang, being a Filipino, being a resident of the community where they are living in.
Aiko Miguel, UNTV News and Rescue, Philippines.
The Office of the Ombudsman is planning to reinvestigate the alleged Davao Death Squad after self-confessed hitman Edgar Matobato filed a complaint against President Rodrigo Duterte. Overall Deputy Ombudsman Arthur Carandang says they will thoroughly study and examine the content of Matobato's complaint to determine their next step on the case. Carandang will lead the investigation after Ombudsman Conchita Carpio Morales inhibited from the case due to her connection to the first family as the aunt-in-law of Davao City Mayor Sara Duterte.
Next in Y News. A lawmaker calls government proposal to adjust SSS contributions following the implementation of the pension increase.
Are likely to receive their respective license plates early next year.
And government hospitals hope for a lesser number of firecracker-related injuries this year.
Y News will be right back. Former Iligan City Congressman Vicente Belmonte, Mayor Lawrence Cruz, and a certain Mayor Lim are the latest personalities implicated by President Rodrigo Duterte in the illegal drug trade. From Malacanang, Rosalie Cos will tell us why live. Yes, go ahead, Rosalie.
Good evening, Diego. President Rodrigo Duterte once again shows his thick narco list containing the names of governor, congressmen, mayor, military personnel, policemen, barangay captains who are allegedly involved in illegal drug operation in the country. And after a few months, 3 new names are publicly revealed again by no other than the president himself. These are former Representative Vicente Belmonte of Iligan City, Mayor Lawrence Cruz, and Mayor Willie Lim. The president said they are all high profile. The president made a statement when he led the awarding of the outstanding overseas Filipinos and organizations this afternoon. Aside from this, the president also mentioned about a senator who is allegedly involved in illegal drugs operation but still was recognized internationally. Meanwhile, President Duterte ordered yesterday the release of 1 billion peso fund for the rehabilitation and medication of drug addicts. Next year, President Duterte will also implement the limit of up to 2 security officers per politician. The president has already mentioned before that he will revive the Alunan Doctrine, which limits the number of armed guards of local officials. That's our latest live here from Malacanang. Back to you, Diego.
Thank you for that report. Rosalie Cos reporting live from Malacanang. Applicants can now get their driver's license card at the Office of the Land Transportation Office, while license plates may possibly be issued to motorists next year. Monokson tells us why.
The Land Transportation Office has begun issuing plastic driver's license cards in Metro Manila. This include all pending license card applications from January to October 16 of this year. License cards are now available at LTO licensing offices where they applied. LTO clarifies that backlogs in the said months are still covered by the 3-year driver's license validity period, since the cutoff for the 5-year validity period was on October 17. LTO says, out of the 3 million plastic cards backlogs, 700,000 are from Metro Manila.
Isang taon din eh. Tagal din kasi nawala kasi itong lisensya ko sa Batangas tapos nag-lost license ako. Bali, buwan na lang din ang tinagal. Nakuha ko na.
There are currently 30 printing machines distributed among 36 LTO licensing and renewal offices in Metro Manila that are capable of printing 800 cards every day. LTO also explains that the LTO's last license card provider has already delivered 500,000 cards and is committed to delivering 3 million plastic cards before the end of February next year. Meanwhile, the LTO will try to issue new motor vehicle plates next year. In January 2017, the agency will bid out the printing of license plates. As per President Duterte's directive, all plates shall be printed locally.
At pupursuhin natin yon. Although, again, hindi natin naantay na kung kailan to available. Kaya at the moment, kung sinong makakagawa ng license plate na tumutugma sa specification, sinusunod yung terms of reference, yun muna ang bibigyan natin ng pagkakataong mag-produce ng license plate.
To date, the notice of disallowance issued by the Commission on Audit to the Land Transportation Office is still pending at the Supreme Court. Monokson, UNTV News and Rescue, Quezon City.
Bayan Muna Representative Carlos Zarate objects to a higher SSS contribution being proposed by the economic managers of President Duterte following implementation of the pension increase. Nel Marie Buhok will tell us why.
When the leadership of SSS went to this house and even during the Senate hearings, ang pangako nila doon na hindi muna sila magtataas ng premium. In fact, sabi ni Dina Mado Valdez, wala sa radar nila na mag-increase ng premium.
Bayan Muna Representative Carlos Zarate opposes the recommendation of Finance Secretary Carlos Dominguez, Budget Secretary Benjamin Jokno, and National Economic Development Authority Director General Ernesto Pernia to adjust the contribution rate of the Social Security system if the 2,000 peso pension hike pushes through. The lawmaker emphasized that SSS leadership should abide by the agreement they made during the Congress hearings. According to the December 15 memorandum of the Duterte administration's economic managers, any improvement in the pension benefits should be accompanied by an adjustment in SSS members' contribution rate. The three secretaries explained that the actuarial life of the pension fund will be shortened from 14 to 17 years due to the 32 billion peso fund that needs to be released yearly to accommodate the first tranche of 1,000 peso pension hike. But the Solon believes otherwise.
It means that merong pondo hanggang 2025, no? At pwede itong i-improve if these reforms na sinasabi natin ay gagawin ng SSS. So there is no need now, no, na mag-impose ng dagdag pasanin.
Congressman Zarate calls on President Duterte to weigh in on the justifications offered by his economic managers concerning the pension hike issue. It is expected that the first tranche of 1,000 peso pension hike will be implemented in January 2017. Nel Maribuhok, UNTV News and Rescue, House of Representatives.
Malacanang has given 50,000 to 400,000 pesos in cash as gifts to key officers of the Philippine National Police. PNP Chief Ronald Bato de la Rosa assures the public that he will not engage in corruption and announces that the PNP officials can now claim the monetary gift.
We want to make our people happy. Importante hindi binulsa yung pera, pinambigay sa dapat makatanggap.
General Bato also denies that the cash gift is part of the government's loyalty check. He explains that the president just wants hardworking officials of the PNP to be rewarded this season. It is the first time a president has given cash gift to officials of the Philippine National Police. In other news, a number of labor groups in the country are preparing a massive protest action against the Department of Labor and Employment. Grace Cassin will tell us why.
On December 28, the Department of Labor and Employment is expected to release a new department order that will be named DO30, aiming to strictly implement the law on contractualization. But a number of labor groups argue that the said department order is unacceptable. Based on Trade Union of Congress of the Philippines or TUCP's copy of the draft of the new DOLE order, all contractual workers have to be regularized by the agency that hired them and not their principal employer. According to the TUCP, the new regulation won't provide workers with security of tenure as they might still lose their jobs after the end of their agency's contract with their principal employer.
May sagot ang Palscon dyan. May sagot na sila dyan, yung mga contractor. Hindi, hahanapan namin sila ulit. Ng ibang kumpanya pa ulit. Hahanapan. So, ibig sabihin, hindi pa rin siguradong makakahanap. So, hindi pa rin secured yung manggagawa doon.
The group adds that if the agency will be the only one required to regularize, there is no assurance also that it can provide sufficient benefits and labor rights entitled to workers like the formation of unions.
Paano ma-exercise ng mga manggagawa yung right nila to participate in decision-making process kung wala silang connect doon sa principal dahil yung kanilang employer ay service provider?
Some contractual workers are also not in favor of the supposed new system.
Kasi pag agency po, limitado lang po. Opo, yung benefits po na makukuha po namin doon.
Sa agency, pwedeng mabawasan yung sweldo namin. Compare sa direct mismo sa mall.
Labor groups seek to hold a dialogue with President Duterte to air their concerns alongside their planned massive protest. The DOLE has yet to answer the concerns aired by the labor groups. Grace Cassin, UNTV News and Rescue, Quezon City.
12 to 14 billion pesos has been allotted by the national government for irrigation projects in next year's budget. Victor Cosari will tell us why.
The National Irrigation Administration says the problem in the irrigation system of the country is one of the reasons why the Philippines is not yet self-sufficient in rice production. Of the more than 3 million hectares identified as irrigable land all over the country, 43% has no irrigation system yet in place. While in some areas that already has one, their irrigation system is either too old or not functioning anymore. These problems impact rice production in the country.
Even if we aim for rice self-sufficiency, but because of our irrigation system is not optimized ang use, we will not be able to achieve rice self-sufficiency.
That is why for next year, 12 to 14 billion pesos has been allotted in the national budget for new irrigation projects.
What we are doing now is trying to restore, rehabilitate the existing ones, but practically 60% of our work, 40% will be to open up new irrigation projects, no? So that we can irrigate more.
Also in the NIA's 2017 budget, 2 billion pesos is allocated to free irrigation. However, the agency also pointed out that the irrigation problem is just one of the challenges that must be hurdled to achieve rice self-sufficiency. Another problem that should be addressed by government is the conversion of some farmlands in the country.
Our rice farms are shrinking. Under the law, bawal i-convert ang rice paddies. But you know what's happening all over the country? Lumiliit ng lumiliit.
Victor Cosare, UNTV News and Rescue, Davao City.
Government hospitals expect a decrease in the number of firecracker-related injuries this year amid the government's intensified campaign against firecrackers. Aiko Miguel will tell us why.
Sana drastically bumagsak ang mga ma-injure. Noong nakaraang taon po, halos katulad din po ng mga nakaraang taon. At ang magandang balita lang doon, puro minor injuries lang ang natamo ng mga pasyenteng dumating.
The management of the East Avenue Medical Center expects a decrease in the number of firecracker-related injuries and respiratory illnesses this year. EAMC is among the government hospitals where firecracker victims are commonly brought to during year-end revelries. Dr. Willie Saludares, OIC of the Emergency Trauma of the East Avenue Medical Center, says they have prepared the equipment needed for the treatment of patients injured by firecrackers as early as November. The move is part of the hospital's preparation for the influx of patients, especially since the Department of Health has ordered government hospitals not to refuse patients.
Maski sino ka man, kung ano man ang iyong sakit or injuries, ikaw ay titingnan at titingnan sa mga government hospitals.
Piccolo remains as the major cause of injuries among firecracker victims. Doctors advise the public to prepare medicines and to avoid places with many firecrackers to prevent inhaling smoke, which causes respiratory illnesses. The public is also advised to just watch fireworks displays of LGUs to ensure their safety and peaceful observance of the New Year. Aiko Miguel, UNTV News and Rescue, Quezon City.
Filipino volunteers in Singapore were thankful to have been part of President Duterte's visit to the country. Ani Reyes will tell us why.
Para sa bayan. Tsaka kailangan Makita man lang si tatay embassy.
From the embassy organization.
Volunteer kami. Ganun lang po kami rito. Tulong-tulong.
Dahil unang-una sa history po ng Singapore, ngayon pa lang po nangyari na pinagkaguluhan ng ating presidente at I'm proud to be Filipino. Tapos po, masaya rin po na nakapagsilbi sa mga kapwa Pilipino.
Due to the large volume of attendees in last Friday's Philcom gathering with President Rodrigo Duterte, the embassy sought the assistance of over 300 volunteers to assist during the event.
The Friday's event was hailed as the largest Filipino community event in Singapore. Despite the heavy rain, some 7,000 members of the community gathered at Singapore Expo to personally see the president. Volunteers from various Filipino organizations gathered to assist the Philippine Embassy in managing the crowd. Volunteers were assigned as marshals, logistics and food and distribution, registration, and photographers. They are happy and proud to take part in what they consider as once-in-a-lifetime event and also being able to meet the President.
Sinikap ko pong maging bahagi sa gawain ito dahil gusto ko pong may pahayag sa sambayan ng Pilipino, lalo na dito sa mga kababayan natin sa Singapore, na ito na ang tamang panahon para masugpo na ang droga at korupsyon sa bansang Pilipinas. Kasi medyo kababayan, siya po ay isang Bisaya, kaya Bisaya rin ako, masarap po sa pakiramdam at nakita ko si Mayor Digong.
The Philippine Embassy is thankful for the success of the event, which showed the unity of the Filipinos at all times.
Hindi naman masyado nag-adjust because we actually organized it in the same manner as the overseas voting. So parang overseas voting lang siya packed into 5 hours, mga ganun lang. So it was a very smooth event.
Annie Reyes, UNTV News and Rescue, Singapore.
A kasangbahay who was once a domestic helper gets a fresh start in life after receiving a startup capital for a livelihood. Leslie Lomboen tells us why.
Knowing the difficult situation of Ella Naldua, a friend of her decided to coordinate with the program Munting Pangarap of Kuya Daniel Razon. Ella used to work abroad as a domestic helper to provide for the needs of her family. But at one point she realized that being personally with her husband and 2 children is still better. However, her return to the country meant another sacrifice as her husband Robert only earns a little as a security guard. That's why Ella searched for livelihoods such as vending food as well as doing the laundry and pressing clothes for other people.
Kahit sobrang masakit na yung katawan ko, halimbawa ngayong araw may magpapalaba, kinabukasan may magpaplantsa, masaya pa po ako nun. Kahit pagod po ako buong araw, masaya pa rin po ako.
Ella only has one simple wish which the station and its partner in public service, the Members Church of God International, have fulfilled. For this blessing, she is very thankful.
Ang aking munting pangarap para sa pamilya ko ay magkaroon po ako ng kahit konting puhunan para makapagtinda-tinda po ng mga kakanin, mga tinapay, mga pagkain po para kumita po ako. Matustusan ko yung pag-aaral ng panganay ko sa lalong-lalo na po sa pamasahe po niya. Sobra po kami nagpapasalamat sa Diyos at sa mga taong ginamit ng Panginoon para po makatulong sa amin.
Sa pagkakataong ito, isa sila sa mabibigyan ng karagdagang ayuda sa hanap buhay sa pamamagitan po ng programa ni Kuya Daniel. Kaya sa inyong mag-asawa, Ella at Robert, sa inyo na po ito, dagdag punan pa rin galing po kay Brother Eli Soriano.
Maraming salamat po kay Brother Eli. Maraming salamat po talaga kay Kuya Daniel sa tulong na ibinigay niya sa amin. Hindi ko po masabi kung anong pasalamat. Masaya po ako. Natutuwa po, nagagalak sa tulong na ito na kanya ibinigay sa amin para po makatulong sa hanap buhay namin.
Leslie Lomboen for Serbisyong Kasangbahay.
Coming up, severe air pollution in China prompts suspension of classes and other facilities from Monday to Wednesday in Beijing.
A Chinese art teacher advocates recycling of industrial waste metals to create art masterpieces.
And Sunday's triple header hails PNP responders, BOC Transformers, and Judiciary Magis's victors as the second round of elimination in UNTV Cup Season 5 continues.
More from Y News after this break. Most parts of Luzon will experience cloudy skies due to the effect of northeast monsoon and tail end of a cold front. Based on Pagasa's forecast, light to moderate rains will be experienced in Quezon, Bicol, Eastern and Central Visayas, and Caraga region in Mindanao. Metro Manila, Ilocos region, Cordillera, Cagayan Valley, and Central Luzon will experience isolated light rains. Isolated rain showers and thunderstorms will prevail over the rest of the country. Small sea crafts and sea vessels are advised not to venture into the northern and eastern seaboards of northern Luzon and the eastern seaboards of central and southern Luzon due to high waves estimated to reach at 4.5 meters. Beijing remains on environmental red alert with situations expected to become worse in the coming days. Dulce Alarcon will tell us why.
Beijing carried out measures to respond to the heavy smog after it activated the first red alert for haze this winter as the air quality began to worsen on Friday. According to Beijing Municipal Environmental Monitoring Center, air in the city is severely polluted. The southeast outskirts were worst polluted, with concentrations of PM2.5 reaching 282 micrograms per cubic meter. Since the city issued the red alert, the traffic departments imposed restrictions based on odd and even numbered license plates of vehicles and set up more than 1,600 checkpoints in the city to strengthen inspections. Meanwhile, Beijing Municipal Commission of Economy and Information Technology sent 14 inspection teams to make sure that enterprises believed to have polluted the environment have suspended or reduced their production after the red alert went into effect.
在预警期间，市经信委将派出14个工作组，对所有的停产企业进行现场督查检查，同时各个区也按照各个区的预案，对所有的停产企业进行不打招呼检查。
More than 1,200 enterprises in Beijing have been required to suspend or reduce production. The daily air pollutants caused by the companies reduced 30% than before. Industries with employees working outside have also taken measures. Express delivery workers, for example, have been given gauge mask and towel for protection from the haze. The pollution has gradually aggravated on Sunday. Until the early morning of Monday, the haze in northern Beijing will be slightly dispersed, but the whole city will still be enveloped by heavy haze. The situation is expected to last until Thursday, when a round of cold air will help disperse the haze. Dulce Alarcon, UNTV News and Rescue, Jilin, China.
U.S. President Barack Obama believes no less than Russian President Vladimir Putin is behind the recent cyber attacks in the U.S. Chris De Leon will tell us why.
U.S. President Barack Obama says that he is confident the hacking in the U.S., reportedly done by Russia, occurred at the behest of the highest levels of officials there.
We have said, and I will confirm, that this happened at the highest levels of the Russian government, and I will let you make that determination as to whether there are high-level Russian officials who go off rogue and decide to tamper with the U.S. election process without Vladimir Putin knowing about it.
Russia has denied U.S. accusations of cyber attacks against U.S. political figures and institutions ahead of the presidential and congressional elections. Two senior government officials said that the FBI backs the CIA's view that Russia intervened to help Republican Donald Trump win the presidential election. Trump has maintained that he won the election fairly and has bristled at suggestions that Moscow influenced the outcome. But Democrats have repeatedly noted that Trump during his campaign has spoken glowingly about Putin and since winning the election has picked top aides in the incoming administration with ties to Russia.
We have learned lessons about how internet propaganda from foreign countries can be released into the political bloodstream, and that we've got strategies to deal with it for the future.
Obama said that the vulnerability of U.S. to Russia or any other foreign power is directly related to how divided, partisan, dysfunctional the country's political process is. Chris De Leon, UNTV News and Rescue, Chicago, USA.
A former call center agent has made his previous loss on the A Song of Praise or ASOP Music Festival an inspiration in creating a better piece that fits the taste of the judges. Robbie De Guzman will tell us why.
After losing in the previous season of ASOP, former call center agent Joyner Dizon followed all suggestions of ASOP judges in the previous episodes of the program.
Bukod sa makakapagpuri ka na sa Diyos sa pagsali dito, uuwi ka pa, may dagdag kang kaalaman mula sa lahat, sa judges, sa interpreters, at sa buong ASOP team.
He also personally picked his interpreter Dan Beliano, who was also the interpreter of the song who beat his entry before.
Napansin ko po yung pagkanta niya may puso. So yun po kasi yung pinaka-importante sa musician, may puso. Sa akin po kasi pag nag-i-interpret ako, usually pag lalo na hindi ko alam yung kanta, iniintindi ko muna yung laman ng song. At the same time, yun yung nilalagay kong emotions while nag-i-interpret na sa song.
All efforts paid off as his song entitled Awa was declared the last weekly winner for the month of December in the A Song of Praise or ASOP Music Festival. Awa defeated the entries Aking Diyos, written by Ronald Diaz and sung by Reynald Simon, and Amang Mahabagin, composed by Israel Sapital and Arvin Agustin and interpreted by Walton Zerudo. The judges were Ding Dong Avanzado, Jackie Lou Blanco, and Junji Marcelo, who temporarily replaced Resident Judge Dr. Musico Mondel Del Rosario. Robbie De Guzman, UNTV News and Rescue, Philippines.
Manchester City inches past Arsenal. Meanwhile, racer Nico Rosberg adds another trophy to his collection. Aaron Romero tells us why.
Retired Formula One world champion Nico Rosberg was crowned Racing Driver of the Year by Europe's largest car club, ADAC, in Munich.
Ich weiß nicht, was ich gemacht habe, um das zu verdienen. Ja, einfach ein unglaubliches Erlebnis, Riesenfreude und das auch zu teilen dann mit allen, mit meinen Freunden, Familie, mit meiner Rennsportfamilie, mit meinem Team, gigantisch und ja, die Erinnerung werde ich natürlich jetzt für den Rest meines Lebens bei mir behalten und bin einfach wirklich rundum glücklich gerade.
Rosberg fulfilled a childhood dream upon winning the championship in Abu Dhabi in November, before stunning the sport by announcing his retirement 5 days later. Meanwhile, second-half goals made by Leroy Sane and Raheem Sterling stunned Arsenal at the Etihad Stadium as Manchester City comes from behind to win 2-1 and move 7 points behind leaders Chelsea. Arsenal's Theo Walcott gave the visitors a flip by scoring on 4 minutes when he rounded off a thrilling 3-man move and looked strong for the rest of the first half, but they ended up losing the lead. Manchester City transformed into an irresistible attacking force after the interval and equalized on 47 minutes when Sane rounded off David Silva's precision pass with his first goal. Sterling scored the winner after 71 minutes. Aaron Romero, UNTV News and Rescue, New York.
The PNP responders, BOC Transformers, Judiciary Mages emerged as victors at Sunday's UNTV Cup triple header held at the University of Makati Gymnasium. Bernard Dadis will tell us why.
An 11-point lead was stomping in the hands of the Judiciary Mages, leaving the Malacanang Kamaos distraught in the main game of Sunday's triple header.
Open, Chester Colomia.
The two-time champions stunned Kamao early on by dominating the first quarter with scores 26. In the third quarter, however, the Malacanang team was able to steal the lead with only 2 minutes left, 47-46. But the Judiciary quickly regained the advantage, 53-52. The Judiciary's offense remained intense in the last quarter until the last buzzer of the ball game, securing the second place in the team standings with a 7-1 win-loss record. With 25 points, including 5 shots from the 3-point territory, 9 rebounds, 2 assists, and 2 steals, Chester Tolomia was hailed as the best player of the game. Team Malacanang falls to the 4th place with a 5-2 win-loss record.
On the other side, Jerome, Kenneth, Norebles.
In the second game, the BOC Transformers claimed their 7th win in a row after turning the winning momentum of the MMDA Black Wolves upside down, ending the ball game with scores 84-71. The Transformers slate remains unblemished with no games lost, while the MMDA plunge with a 4-4 win-loss record.
Possession advantage for the firefighters. Malabanan trying to create. Yes!
Naku, ito delikado.
And in the responders' firefighters hardcore action, the VFP brings home a disappointing 2-point loss after being extinguished by the 3-time runner-up team, 86-84. Olan the Sniper Umiping was hailed as the best player of the game after drilling 21 points, 5 rebounds and 5 assists alongside Harold Santa Cruz with 9 points and 11 rebounds. The PNP elevates to the 3rd spot with a 6-2 win-loss record, while the Firefighters settle with a 4-4 games win, games lost. Bernard Dadis for UNTV Cup Season 5.
Those are the reasons behind the news. December 19, 2016. I'm Angelo Castro III.
Reasons we delivered to you as they unfold. I'm Gerry Alcantara.
And I'm Darlene Basingan, because we need to know.
We will always ask why. Thank you for watching Y News.